right. Let's make sure we've got this, our Instagram stream moving. And here we are. We are ready to go. Wind Tunnel Wednesday. I am Coach James. I am the creator and lead instructor for All About Aerodynamics, which is a science program that uses Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about a range of science and physics-related topics, including but not limited to aerodynamics, drag, lift, friction, elastic energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, downforce, a whole range of topics. After we have learned the science and we've conducted experiments to drive home all those concepts, then and only then do I introduce about 400 different Hot Wheels cars, and each student selects a Hot Wheels car they think would be fastest in a series of races based on everything they've learned in the course. After they've selected their car, they take a picture of their car, they weigh the car, they test the speed of their car, and they check the year the car was manufactured. They enter all the information that they can observe into a spreadsheet. Once they've done that, then they decide, this is the car I'm sticking with. We take those cars to the track, they set up a 1/64 scale quarter-mile drag strip, and we race the cars, and they observe how the cars perform. Did the cars perform up to or below their expectations? And based on what they observed, would they select that car again if they had the opportunity, or would they make a completely different selection based on their observations? So we have fun with the Hot Wheels cars. We learn science. What could be better? If you would like more information about our science program and how to bring it to your school or your organization or your special event, you can go to our website, aerodynamics.com. Right there. aerodynamics.com. And you can find out more details about the program and the different offerings that we have. Or you can follow us on Instagram, Aerodynamics. And all the information you need is in the bio. If you want to ask me some questions to get some more information, feel free to do that and send me a message, and I'd be more than happy to respond. But this is not all about aerodynamics. This is All About Aerodynamics presents Wind Tunnel Wednesday. So what is Wind Tunnel Wednesday? Well, I purchased from Funtech Labs the 1/64th scale wind tunnel, and it is a scaled down version of a wind tunnel that would be used to test cars and their aerodynamic profiles. And we can put our Hot Wheels cars into the wind tunnel, and we will see how the air flows over, under, and around these cars, and begin to compare what we see between different models and styles of cars. And why does that matter? Well, because on Saturdays, we have a program, AtTheTrack.live, where we race the Hot Wheels cars. And what we're trying to do is take the cars that have done well on the track, put them into the wind tunnel, and observe how the air flows over, under, and around those cars. Then, if we compare that to how the cars perform and what we've seen, we should be able to start to identify what we see in the wind tunnel and take what we see and apply it to other cars. So before a car races, we should be able to put it in the wind tunnel, look at how the air is flowing over, under, and around that car, and make some basic determinations. And after we have enough of a sample size, after we've put enough cars through, then we should be able to really begin to make some clear choices and decisions about which cars we think would be fastest. And the thing with AtTheTrack.live is the same with Wind Tunnel Wednesday, is that you can participate. All you have to do, if you want to select a car to see it inside the wind tunnel, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live. It's right down there. When you go to AtTheTrack.live, you will have an option that says choose a car. If you select the choose a car option, you will be taken to this page. And on this page, you will be able to scroll through and take a look at all of the cars that are currently in the All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live fleet. You can select the car that you think would be fastest, or in the case of today, you could select a car that you would like to see inside the wind tunnel. If you want to see the aerodynamic profile of that particular car, then all you have to do is find that car, take the number. In this case, let's say you decide, I saw one that looked pretty interesting, this Ooze Coupe, number 47. You can select that, you can take a close-up look at it, and if you decide, yeah, that's the car I want to see inside the wind tunnel, then all you have to do is take the number of that car, in this case 47, you drop that into the chat. I would pull that car, and we would put it into the wind tunnel. And based on whatever you observe, you might decide, yeah, that's the car I want to see race on Saturday. And if that's the case, then I'll pull that car again, and we will see what it can do on the track. But obviously, what we see in the wind tunnel is just going to be one factor. It's going to be one data point that we have to use to kind of determine and make that hypothesis and make that guess about which car would be fastest. So there are more than 800 cars to choose from. I think at last count there are about 835 cars that we have officially entered into the fleet. And there are fantasy cars, there are cars based on real cars, there are cars from the 70s, cars from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and cars that came out just a couple of weeks ago. And all of those are there for you to choose. It is, some of the fantasy cars have such strange lines and shapes and little pieces and parts added to them that they are things that you wouldn't see on a normal car. So it's hard to gauge the aerodynamic profile just based on the observation, because it's not comparable to any car that we would see out on the road. For example, car number 136, the Piranha Terror. We cannot compare the aerodynamics of this fish car to a Toyota Camry. It just wouldn't match up. And we don't know how necessarily this car would perform on the track. There are a lot of factors that would go into play. But what we do know is that we can take this car, and on Wind Tunnel Wednesdays, what we will do is we will put this car into the wind tunnel, and we'll take a look at how the air flows over, under, and around it. And we will be able to determine, okay, we see that there's possibly a lot less drag with this car, and therefore that's an important factor when we're talking about the cars that we race on Saturdays. So again, if you want to select a car, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live, select the choose a car option, and you will be taken to this page. And like I said, there are 830 plus different cars to choose from. Find the car that you would like to put into the wind tunnel, and I will pull that car. We'll throw it in there, and we'll take a look. And if there are two cars that you are choosing between, we've had people who have been in that situation where they haven't been able to decide between a couple of different cars. So they've picked two cars, we put them in the wind tunnel, and that was what they observed was part of the calculation they used to determine which car they were going to ultimately pick. So we are going to we have multiple cars we're going to put in the wind tunnel, but the first car that we put into the wind tunnel is always going to be our fastest in fleet car. Now, what is the fastest in fleet car? The fastest in fleet car is the car that has won the tournament that we hold on Saturday. So on Saturday, I introduce new cars into the fleet. We take them to the track, we race those cars, we have a tournament, and some car comes out on top. The car that wins that tournament gets to race our fastest in fleet car, our champion car. And our current fastest in fleet car, and let me make sure that I've got the lights on so that our champion car gets all the shine it is due. Our current fastest in fleet car is this one. It is the Blitz Speeder. And let me just switch this there and zoom on in. This is the fastest car in the fleet. This is the car that has beaten out every single car that it has faced. It has, well, I take that back. The Blitz Speeder was our champion car for 17 weeks in 2024. Right up until the end of 2024, the Blitz Speeder was the fastest car in our fleet. And then one week, the Gazella R was introduced, and the Gazella R beat the Blitz Speeder 2 out of 3 races to become our new fastest in fleet champion. The Gazella R went on a pretty incredible and impressive run of 16 weeks as champion. After those 16 weeks, the Gazella had to have a rematch against the Blitz Speeder. So we brought the Blitz Speeder back, and we took those cars to the track, and the Blitz Speeder absolutely blew the doors off of the Gazella R. And it was not close. It was not, there was no controversy, nothing. The Blitz Speeder dominated 2 races in a row, beat the Gazella R, and that was it. It was over. So the Blitz Speeder has come back to be a 2-time champion and is now the fastest in fleet car. And as a result of being the fastest in fleet car, it is going to be the first car that is put into the wind tunnel, because this is really going to be the car that all the other cars are measured up against. So let's go ahead and switch over to the wind tunnel, and we will pop in the Blitz Speeder, our fastest in fleet car. Let me make sure it's lined up properly, which it is. And we will go ahead and crank this up and take a look at the Blitz Speeder and see what we're looking at in terms of the airflow. So this is at 67 miles per hour, and we can see that the profile of the Blitz Speeder, it is not, I mean, the air flows very smoothly right across the top. And one thing we've noticed with the last couple of cars that have been our fastest in fleet cars is that there is not a windshield, typical windshield sort of protruding up that deflects any of the air. And ultimately, the idea is just to reduce drag, and we see the air flowing right across the car, following the body lines of the car. And that is ultimately, this is what we're looking for, is the air not to be obstructed, and therefore we don't want drag increased, and we know that drag increases with speed, and our launcher for our cars fires the cars out at very high speeds with a lot of force, and ultimately we have drag to contend with, gravity to contend with, and friction. And reducing drag is key, as far as we've seen, and in real racing as well, to performing well on the track. So with the Blitz Speeder, we are seeing, again, this car is going to cut through the air, and based on its performance on the track, we know what to expect out of this car. So this is right now at 121 miles per hour, and we can see the air flowing right there. And this is our champion car. This is the car that has been as dominant as any car that we've ever seen on the track, and there's no reason really why that shouldn't continue. So let's drop down. So again, this is at 53 miles per hour, and we are seeing that this car is essentially the aerodynamic profile that you want to follow if you are going to find a car that is going to be somehow competitive with the Blitz Speeder. It needs to have a similar aerodynamic profile. If it does, then it should perform well on the track. There are other factors that come into play. The weight of the car is one, but we also have gravity to contend with, which is why heavier cars tend not to do as well on our track as lighter cars. So when you're looking through making a selection for a car, weight isn't something that you're going to be able to necessarily determine just through the pictures. Some of the cars, when you look at the reflection, you can know and see that they are metal on metal. A lot of the Hot Wheels cars they're either plastic bodies on metal bases or metal bodies on plastic bases. And so the weight is a lot less than some of the older Hot Wheels cars that were metal bodies on metal bases, and that was not something that, or at least it's not something that currently helps the cars on our track, because heavier cars, as they get toward the back end of the track, gravity begins to pull them down. I mean, gravity's pulling everything down, but the heavier cars begin to slow down toward the back end of the track. We see it every week with heavier cars, and then with lighter cars, drag starts to slow. They start to slow down toward the back end of the track because of drag. So we see cars slowing down at the back end for two different reasons. If it's a heavier car, it's usually that gravity, and if it is a lighter car, drag is slowing them down if the car is too light. So the kind of sweet spot that we've identified is between about 32 and 36 grams. And if a car is right in that range in terms of weight, it's got a shot. If it's got a good aerodynamic profile, reducing drag, even better. If it gets a good solid launch and stays straight on the track and doesn't bounce around, then that is another factor that's going to work in its favor to help it down the track. So this next car is it's a new car. It's part of the Hot Wheels Salt Flat Racers series, and I just picked it up last week, and we raced it this past Saturday. So a lot of these cars, or a few of these cars, are going to be cars that we raced on At The Track Live on Saturday, because we saw how they performed, and now we want to see what their aerodynamic profile is by placing them in the wind tunnel and watching how the air flows over, under, and around, and comparing what we see to the performance that we saw on the track. So let's take a look at this one. This is the Ground FX, and it is, I think this car, one, it was heavy. That all of that yellow is metal, and actually, you know what? I take that back. I don't think this car was that heavy. Let me put it on the scale really quickly just to double check. No, I was wrong. and I was wrong with my correction. I was right the first time. Yeah, this car was heavy. It weighed in at about 40 grams, just over 40 grams. And for our track, that is pretty heavy. And you're not really going to do well against most of the cars on our track if you're weighing in at 40 grams. It's just too much. And but this car, I think one of the other things that kind of did it in is that on the bottom, it's got these little disc wheels as opposed to the standard Hot Wheels wheels. It's just got these little discs here. And we've never had a car on the track that has done well with those wheels. And we still have not, because this car, even though it looks cool, even though in theory, and if this was a real car, this would be a, very aerodynamic car that should be fast. That's not how it necessarily works on our track, which is why it's important to observe how the cars perform and then also go back and start to look at what works on our track. Most Hot Wheels racing that you see online is on a gravity track, and there are different factors that come into play when you're talking about a gravity track versus our track, which is a flat drag strip, a 1/64th scale quarter-mile drag strip. So this is the ground effects, and we saw what it did on the track. It wasn't impressive at all, but we are going to put it in the wind tunnel, and we are going to take a look and see what the aerodynamic profile on this car is. So let's switch back over to the wind tunnel, drop in the ground effects, which is definitely one of the longer cars that we've had on the track. Get it lined up here. Okay, and it is taking full advantage of the wind tunnel area. Get that kind of locked in right there, and let's go ahead and take a look and see about the ground effects. So this is at 40 miles per hour, and we have to increase the wind speed, because at 40 miles an hour we're not really all that concerned. Even a regular car at 40 miles an hour, you're not really concerned with drag all that much. But as speed increases, then so does drag. So now what we're seeing is the airflow. The air is just separating from the car right at the canopy. It's coming up over the top, and then it's just breaking loose. What we saw with the blitz speeder and what we see with cars that are faster is air that is sticking to the body of the car and flowing right off the back edge. With this one, the air is coming up on this canopy and then just breaking off and never reattaching itself back to the body. And I can adjust this a little bit. So you can kind of see the shape of the car. And we can see what's happening with the airflow. And again, right here, right off the canopy, the air is hitting the front, coming up on that canopy, and then coming up off the top, and never again reattaches back to the body. Now what I will do is I'm going to shift the car over a bit, because right now, if I move this, that airstream, it's hitting right in the center of the car and hitting the canopy, going up over the top and not reconnecting. So what I'm going to do is I'll shift the car over, but I'll turn up the speed first before I do that, because right now we're at 121 miles per hour. And so if I turn this up, let's go up to 147, 161, 174. And now you can really see the air flowing right off the car, right here. It's not reattached to the body. So let's go back down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift the car over to the right so that the canopy is not in the way. And let's see if the air in the other parts of the car, to the left and right of the canopy, if it behaves differently. Let me move this car over. Okay. So what I've done is I've moved the car off of the center line so that now the air is going to flow. It's going to hit the front of the car, and then it's going to flow. We're going to see what happens with the air as it flows to the left and right, or actually in this case just to the left of the canopy, and see if this case it adheres more to the body and we don't see the air detaching like we did before. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is at 67 miles per hour, which again isn't too fast, but we're gonna crank this up. Now we're at 94 miles per hour, and it seems that there is less detachment as the air, because we've shifted the car over. And so if I put it up here, we've moved the car off center a bit, although I think it's still, I might need to move it a little bit more. But what we're trying to do is see how the air flows over the car without the canopy in the way. Let me turn this up. And there definitely seems to be less detachment in this airflow. Coming up here, still following the body lines of the car. But I'm going to shift it over even a little bit more so we can see. Because that was up to, I think we got up to about 120 something miles per hour. So now I'm going to shift this over a little bit more, because the idea is that we want to get away from the canopy sort of influencing the airflow. I mean, of course it will when the car is actually moving, but that's only part of the story. So if the airflow is, let me move the camera a little bit. So initially, we saw that airstream was coming up, hitting this canopy, and then it was detaching from the car and just kind of flying off in the air. So I've moved the car off center. So now we should be able to see the air hit the car just to the left of the canopy and see what it does in these areas. Because to the left and right of the canopy, air still has to pass over the body of the car, but we're going to find out if we see that same level of separation. So maybe it's just in the middle when it hits the canopy that we see the air detach from the body. In the other case, it's going to adhere to it. So let's see. Hey, Roughshod, what's up? We are checking this ground effects, which we saw race on Saturday, and it didn't wasn't all that impressive. One, because of the weight, and then also those disc tires that it's got, those disc wheels. But it's definitely an interesting car to throw in to the wind tunnel. This is at 107 miles per hour. And it is, now we're at 161. And there's a lot less turbulence than we saw when it was lined up. When it was lined up in the center, that air was hitting that canopy and coming off the car right there. So we are kind of seeing that it does make a difference about the parts of the car that are sticking up and kind of getting in the way of that airflow. It does make a difference. Now with this car, it was too heavy and the wheels weren't the right type, so it wasn't going to be fast anyway. But if we had a car that could potentially be fast on the track, these little things matter. And what we see with the Blitz Speeder, with the Gazella, with some other cars that have done pretty well, is that they don't have pieces, they don't have little accessories that are getting in the way of that airflow. And this car is cool, but I think there were just too many other factors that were keeping it from doing anything significant on the track. So that was the ground effects, and we saw that one race. This next one, we haven't seen it race on the track, I don't believe. And I decided, I forget how, I think I was going through some loose cars and just came across this one. And this tuned out Lamborghini Countach. And I don't know if that, well, I can actually check and see if that wing is too wide to let it fit in the launch channel on our track. But I think just the angles on this car, it's got this crazy stance because of the giant wheel in the back and all the exaggerated angles. I just wanted to see it in the wind tunnel. And roughshod Ferrari, the 131 Ferrari P4. I will go and grab that one. We'll put this Lamborghini in. Let me see. Let me first see if it will fit into the launch channel, just in case we may want to race that one on Saturday. So this is a sample of the launch channel, and it fits. So in theory, if you want to pick this car after you see it in the wind tunnel, if you want to see this one race on Saturday, then all you'll have to do is actually, it's not in the fleet, so you would have to just tell me, I want to see that crazy orange Lambo. I want to see it in the on the track. So what you're going to see is you're going to see it in the wind tunnel. So we're going to go here and let me get it lined up. And just a reminder, just like Roughshod did, if there is a car that you want to see in the wind tunnel, you can go to AtTheTrack.live and you can select the choose a car option, and then all you have to do is give me the number of the car that you've selected, and I will pull it and I will throw it into the wind tunnel. And if there's a couple of cars that you're trying to decide between, then you can give me those numbers just like Roughshod did. So 131 on that Ferrari and 159 on the Mazda. I remember that one. The Fury. I don't remember if I don't know if I was pronouncing it correctly, but I do remember that one racing on the track. But let's see this Lamborghini here. Get this going. So again, we're at 40 miles an hour, which is not anything significant because most cars can push right on through 40, 50, 60 miles per hour. It's when you start to get to those higher speeds that drag becomes significant. So now we're up to 107 miles per hour. And the airflow, the air is doing exactly what I think we would expect in looking at this car and the shape. It is following that body line right up over the top, hitting that wing, and then tailing off. And we're at 134 miles per hour. And again, I'm not seeing anything to give me any concerns about this car. And we see all that turbulent air at the back, and you know, with the other, it's hard to kind of figure out how some of this works and applies to Hot Wheels cars. Maybe it's exactly the same, because in real life, this in the back, you're creating a difference in pressure in the front, and ultimately that can work to slow the car down. Sometimes, and it's what, cars have the diffusers. Everything on the cars is designed to control the airflow, especially when you start getting into those hypercars and supercars. Let's crank the speed up to 161 miles per hour. Yeah, there are like two vortexes coming off there, and it is kind of interesting. All right, so let's see. Here's something from a message from the wind tunnel. So, low on fog fluid. Please add fog fluid and recalibrate. All right, so let's see. This has been one of the things with this wind tunnel, because I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Pull this out. Let me move this kind of to the side. So the way this works is there's a little box that you add fluid to. So let me pull that out. All right. So it's this little box here. And I will show you. This is the box. Maybe it'll help if I'll put it on the other. I'll put it over here. On this. So you can take a look. So this is how it works. There is this box, and in this box, it shows the, there's a little window. There's a little window right here that shows the fluid level. So you can see that the fluid, the line, I think you can see, is basically right here. Well, there's little markers on the glass, and it's got a percent sign there. It says 75 is right there. There's a line that says 75%. Let me see if I can maybe get a different angle there. You can kind of see in the glare, at least you can see that top line is 100. 75 is right there. And the fluid level, I'm looking at it, is right here. So maybe if I shake this, you can see the fluid move. Maybe, maybe not. I'm trying to get a good angle without the reflection. Try this. So you can kind of see the fluid in there moving. Well, when I sit this box down, it's showing, I can see the fluid level is somewhere between 75% and 100%. So let's just say 85%. But the message on the wind tunnel said that the fog fluid was low and that we needed to add more. So that's clearly not the case. So I am going to reinsert it. I think if I turn it, I'm trying to get an angle, but everything, I keep getting reflections in that glass. But you can kind of see the fluid moving a little bit. It's kind of like looking at a magic 8 ball. So let's see. I'm going to reinsert this and see if maybe there was just some kind of, I don't know, some kind of error on the part of this thing. There's also there's a different attachment. So you can have two fog options. One is for the 5 streams of smoke, and then the other is for just one. And so let's see what we're going to do here. Turn or click to exit, low on fire, and recalibrate. Okay. So let's see. Turn this. All right, let's see what we've got going on. If this thing still thinks it's low on fluid, or if we're going to be good. All right, so there we go. And I think with this, this car we might have to race this one on Saturday just to find out how it competes, because we've had a couple of these sort of tuned out cars that have raced, and but they weren't Lamborghinis. I forget what they were, and they probably had a much bigger flatter frontal area than this one. So I know there's a Daytona, but it's got a huge engine sticking up out of the hood, so that's not really exactly what you want to see. But this one, I think this one should do all right on the track. I might have to bring this one out on Saturday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab those two cars that Roughshod was talking about, the 131, the Ferrari, and then the Mazda Fury. So I'm going to grab those and be back in just a minute. All right, so that's that Ferrari, and let's go ahead and turn this up to, now we're up to 174 miles per hour. And again, there's not really anything obstructing the airflow. We do see these two pieces here, which could possibly trap some air, create some drag, slow the car down. But for the most part, this car might do all right on the track. It just might. So I'm gonna keep that in mind for this Saturday. And a reminder, if there is a car that you want to select, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live and select the choose a car option, and you will be taken to this page. And on this page you can scroll through. There are 830 some odd cars for you to choose from. There are fantasy cars, there are cars based on real cars, there's this one, the one that we're about to look at, the one that Roughshod picked, the Ferrari, this one right here, and the Ferrari P4. So all you have to do is find the car that you want to pick, go to that page, take the number, drop it in the chat. I'll pull out that car, and we'll throw it in the wind tunnel. If you do those same series of steps on Saturday, then the car I pull, we'll take it to the track, and it will be entered into our tournament. We'll see how it performs. So you could find the car that ends up being our fastest in fleet car and takes out our champion. So this is the that Ferrari P4. This is the car that Roughshod has picked that will be racing on Saturday, and it's got the right profile. So let's throw it in the wind tunnel and see how it compares to the what we saw with the Blitz Speeder, since basically we pretty much want to compare what we're seeing in the wind tunnel with our fastest car. And right now our fastest car is the Blitz Speeder. So let's go ahead and throw this Ferrari into the wind tunnel and see what it's got. And get it just lined up. I think I mentioned last week that the company that created this wind tunnel, Funtech Labs, has also created a little dyno that the cars can sit on, and it will simulate, the rollers will move the wheels of the car, and it will have a more, it actually, what I'm looking forward to is that it lifts the cars up so that we can see the airflow going beneath the car as well. So we'll see how that all works out. But here we go. With this Ferrari P4, we are at 80 miles per hour, and we are seeing a similar kind of performance that we saw with the Blitz Speeder, and that's definitely what you want. And we see that air hitting the front of the car and just following the body line right to the back, and that's at 80. But let's turn it up, because we know that our track fires these cars out at an incredibly high rate of speed, and this is at 107 miles per hour. And this is going up to 134. And Roughshod, what I'll do is I'll put in the single smoke stream. It's a little different. I don't know if if it's more than just one smoke stream coming out. I think the nozzle might be a little different, and you do get a little more of smoke along the sides than you do with the 5 streams. But it's just a little different. I don't know if visually it's as interesting, but I'll throw it on in just a minute, and we can compare it. So this is at 134. We're up to 161 miles per hour. And again, you can see the air off the back. If I lift the camera, you can kind of see how it's coming off from both angles. But the key part is that we don't see really any detachment from the body until it hits the little spoiler at the back. All right, and there we go. So let me switch out, and I'll put in the single smoke stream. This car it looks like it's metal, appears to be metal on plastic. So it doesn't feel heavy. It is right in sort of a good, I think it's in a good range. And now that Mattel has renewed their partnership, their licensing with Ferrari, we are going to start to see a lot more Ferraris back in the mix. And I have a few that are in the fleet right now, but there are definitely going to be more, and I expect, I don't know how soon we'll see those, but I saw a post from Mattel Hot Wheels, and there was a premium looking Ferrari. That's not what I'm interested in, because I need cars with plastic wheels. So All right, so now I'm switching out. I'm putting in the single smoke stream, and we're going to take a look at that, and you can sort of see or compare the difference between the two. Let's get this here. All right, and let's see. So this is the single smoke stream at 80 miles per hour, and you end up seeing, let me tilt this a little bit, you can kind of see that it does send more air around the sides of the car. But let me turn this up and we can get a better look. So now we're at 107 miles per hour, and go up a little more to 121. And 134. 147. Now we're up at 161. And if I take this, move it over the top, bring it back down. It's definitely a different look to it than the 5 streams. But we do see, well, also it seems to be a wider burst of smoke that's coming out, as opposed to the 5 streams. They seem a little bit more narrow. But this at 161, taking this up to 188 miles per hour. And 201 miles per hour. That's where it's at right there. So this is slowed down to 101, and I'll slow it down just a little bit, trying to see which. So again, right there in the front, I'm trying to see which speed sort of gives the best view of the airflow. But the two nozzles do produce different types of smoke coming off. And so this is down to 53 miles per hour. You can just see where exactly the air is hitting this car. But the I think with the just visually, the 5 streams gives a little better visual kind of look. But this car definitely, I think, it's got the right profile, it's got the right shape. The weight seems decent, and it should do well on Saturday versus whatever other cars get introduced. This is the Mazda Furai, F-U-R-A-I, and we'll take a look at this one. Let me make sure I've got it lined up just right, and that's pretty good. Close this up, and I still have the single stream in there. We can see what we can observe with this car. So right now it is at 67 miles per hour, and you're definitely with this single stream getting more air flowing around. You get to see more of the air flowing around the car. What we don't see with the 5 streams is you don't typically see the air flowing around the edges because the stream is much more narrow. So this just gives a much different look. We're up to 121 miles per hour. And I think what it's harder to see with this view is whether or not is how well the air is kind of flowing along the lines of the body of the car, and that's also important because we're still the biggest goal is just to reduce drag, and everything on the real cars is meant to to reduce drag and or to increase downforce. Keep the cars on the track. It's always helpful if you can keep your race car on the track. So this is at 134. 161. 174. And 188. And then we got that same message. I'm going to have to check. We got this same message about the low fluid, but we already checked, and it's at about 80%. So I think I'm going to have to dig into the manual and figure out how to recalibrate the Windsible. But we did see how the air was flowing around this Mazda Fury. And this is one of the cars that we've seen race, but with that Ferrari, we are going to see it race. So we've seen what the aerodynamic profile looks like, and we are going to see it in action on Saturday with the ground effects car. We saw the ground effects race on Saturday, and then we saw what it was doing in the wind tunnel. And there's multiple reasons why it didn't do as well, but the aerodynamics, you could kind of say maybe that played a role, but I think the bigger role is the car was so heavy, number one, and then those disc wheels, not a good sign. Now, this car is a whole different matter. We've seen this car on the track. We know that it's fast, and we've looked at that aerodynamic profile, and we know that it is, we know that it's fast. So when we look at what it does in the wind tunnel, we want to see something similar from cars that may or may not be perform as well. And so Roughshods Ferrari had a similar aerodynamic profile, so that's one step. So they're similar in that regard. The shape, they've got some things that they share in common. And then the other questions will start to be about the kind of launch that the Ferrari gets, compared to the Blitz Speeder, compared to what other cars are introduced. And if you get that good solid launch and you can stay straight on that track, then you're in good shape. So if aerodynamically they're similar, if weight-wise they're similar, now we're starting to talk about, can they get consistent launches? And if a car can get a consistent launch, stay straight on the track, then it's got a shot. And apparently the Blitz Speeder is just gets in that pocket and is able to just stay straight on that track with better than any other car that we've seen do it. So we are going to find out on Saturday. We're going to find out if we've got a car to take down the Blitz Speeder. So we've got this Ferrari. If you would like to select a car to race on Saturday, we'll be here at Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific on YouTube and Twitch live. All you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live. You'll have the links there. You can also go to the Choose Your Car option, find the car you want to race, take that number, you'll drop it in the chat on Saturday. I'll pull the car, and we will see if you can beat out Rough Shots Ferrari or the Blitz Speeder or some of the other cars that are introduced. For just a little preview, I found another ID card and an ID car and another Batmobile. So this TV series Batmobile ID car will be introduced into the fleet, and I've got to double check, but I think that this Lamborghini, this tuned out Lamborghini, may also be entered in. If there's not a version of this already in the fleet, then this car will be racing on Saturday as well. So we've seen the aerodynamic profile. Is that going to match up with how it performs on the track, and what do we see? So again, as we get more cars in the wind tunnel, we get more cars racing on the track, compare all the observations we make, we should be able to start to kind of narrow down cars that will do well on the track. So it's there's always a lot going on, a lot of Hot Wheels fun to be had. We are going to be back here next Wednesday, throw some more cars into the wind tunnel, and just take a look, make those observations, and then see what happens at the track on Saturday. So I am going to check on the recalibration of this wind tunnel and get all these cars together and get ready for Saturday. So until Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific, when we are going to be racing these cars, I am Coach James for All About Aerodynamics, the science program that uses Hot Wheels cars to teach students about physics. And for AtTheTrack.live, where we race cars on our 1/64th scale quarter-mile drag strip. And for Wind Tunnel Wednesdays, where we look at the aerodynamic profiles of these Hot Wheels cars. I am Coach James, and until next time, I will see you at the races.